Okay, so we wrapped up your spider video yesterday, and one of the aspects that whether you want to say the narrator or the host or whichever, spiders go after their prey 3 different ways. How might that be? Okay, there's trapdoor spiders, that's one.
Chasers?
Yeah, they're actually going to chase them down from behind, that's another way.
Camouflage.
Not the spider itself. I think you could say, to me, that would be an ambush type, and that would be the same as a trap door. I mean, yes, they do blend in with their surroundings, but you're missing what people may associate with spiders the most. Yeah, they're webs. Okay? So what that means is there are the tree dwellers and also the ground dwellers. And what we mean by that is possibly if they are a ground-dwelling arachnid, then they probably use a trapdoor. Then if they are arboreal, or I think then they would be up in the trees where they would not be use the web rather than a trapdoor. So yes, they're using a web in both cases. It's just that insects can possibly fly into that if they're a tree-dwelling spider. And you might be asking yourself, and I think you know the answer, if we talk about this next slide, okay, and then we'll come back to this one for just a moment, you might be asking yourself, if these animals have such complex nervous systems like what we're talking about here, okay, this is mainly referring to spiders, but if we say that their nervous system is quite complex, why are insects constantly flying into a web? And like I said, I think you know the answer to that.
Because they're blind.
It's not that they're blind. They can't see it. They cannot see that. Now, if there were water droplets on there, well then, of course, I think an insect would see that. But I think some of the chemical composition can be changed if they make that a more waxy type of substance, then maybe the water just runs right off of that. So if that is the case, well then how would insects avoid it? Yeah, they can fly around it, I understand that. But insects can do something that the majority of birds cannot. And there again, I think, we try to ask these questions to make you think, make you critical, what do you want to say, thinkers, problem solvers. So think of an insect flying as opposed to, like I said, the majority of birds. Because birds can't do this.
They flap their wings a lot faster.
Say that again? Yeah, birds can't fly backwards except for hummingbirds. Hummingbirds can do that. Birds cannot fly backwards. Insects can. Okay? Now, I said we'd come back to this. These coxal glands, okay, they work with this system of Malpighian tubules, allow these animals to live in such extreme dry environments because water is such a precious environment, or precious substance. Okay? Now, like we said, only a few species of these animals can form images. Okay? So it's such a misconception that, okay, they've got these 8 simple eyes, they must be able to have great vision. And the answer to that is no. So why might that be? Especially the tarantula, okay? Because we keep coming back to that as an example. Why does the eyesight not have to be very well equipped for those animals, do you think? Because it has something to do with their hair, you're right.
Like they can sense it.
Right, and same thing that with our hair. I mean, you can certainly sense the hair on your arms and legs coming in contact with something, same thing that with these animals. So you might be asking, well, why did nature select these animals to have eyes? To me, probably just this reason. They just need to be able to see light and dark and perceive moving objects, and that's it, except for some of the tree dwellers, okay? The reason we say that is if you are up in a tree, maybe 30, 40, 50 feet, I think we associate them as, you could say, jumping spiders, okay? So if that's the case, this would certainly be an advantage for those animals if they're going from one branch to another. And when you think about that, if we could jump the same length as maybe most spiders, so from a standstill, and I'm not saying I know the answer either, but how far could we possibly jump from a standstill? I know quite far. I agree. And of course, there's not going to be one right answer for this, but I would be led to believe if you are 5 feet tall, we'll just use that as an example, or 6 feet, whichever, okay? I believe you just multiply that number, they can jump maybe between 6 and 8 times their body length, which is, you might think, well, that's only about like this far. I don't know if you can see, there we go, okay? Which maybe doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal, but if you put that into proportion, that's actually quite phenomenal if we could do that same thing. Jump about 30 feet at one time, but give credit where credit's due. These animals, some can actually form these images. Okay. So, like we said, a lot of these animals have these sensory, it's called setae, okay? So they don't need to see well because this provides communication for their surroundings, and that is certainly going to be an adaptation. If you can't see, you're going to have to be able to navigate your way around the natural world somehow. So I think the answer to this is no, because we don't really associate a high order of intelligence with these animals. I don't know, maybe it just really hasn't been tested, but do you think that male spiders know that their days are always limited? Yes. And maybe that's encoded onto their genetics. Once they reach that sexual maturity, which is, I can't remember what the author or narrator had said. I believe females can live between 10 and 20? 30 years, okay? But for males, that number has to be at least cut in third. Okay? So I suppose you could say, well, that stinks to be a guy, you know, and maybe they know that. So should, like the narrator said, should the male spider be able to retreat after inseminating the female? It really doesn't matter because he's going to die anyway. It's encoded, in about 3 months. It's just encoded into their DNA. For some reason, nature has selected that to take place in that manner. Okay. There's one more thing I wanted to mention about that. That slipped my mind. Maybe it'll come back at some point. Okay. Oh, I think, all right, now I remember what I wanted to say. How does that type of reproduction take place between these animals? It's something to do, it looked like a little hook. Yeah. Right. And I don't know if you would say it's on one of their legs. I believe if it's not on their pedipalps or pedipalps, it must be on their front legs. It's one or the other. I'm not quite sure. In which one?
In the video we just watched, it said their front legs.
Their front legs. Okay. So I couldn't remember if it was their front legs or that second appendage, which is called the pedipalps, okay, which is used for reproductive purposes and probably holding their prey item in place. And then, like they had mentioned, that's that first set of legs that just has a little hook on it, and they use that to inseminate its mate or the female. Okay, so let's see here. This one. Okay, I knew we were getting close to the scorpions. So let's just go ahead and wrap this up. Then you can utilize the rest of the time to work on those papers, not work on them, find something to do, and then we will easily get to the scorpions tomorrow. Yes? When are they due?
Yeah.
Probably not until the first week of December. Okay, we're not going to say next week because, as we all know, next week is a very short week.
That's short. What days do they have off?
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Friday.
I thought we were down.
At least I think that's a good place to stop. Let me just quickly take a look or a peek. Okay. Yeah, we can pick up with rest of that tomorrow. Move on to the scorpions. Okay. So with that, that's all I have. So we will catch up to you next time.